समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Did you ever expect that Dubai would be the target of Iranian drones and Iranian missiles? I think all of us were apprehensive about what would happen to the world when the US and Israel first attacked Iran. But I think any of us thought that Dubai would be part of the war zone. You have to work out why the Iranians did, because I can't. Maybe they thought that by attacking civilian targets, hotels, airports, places like that, they would get the world's attention. Maybe because the entire chain of command was attacked so badly in the first day of the war, they'd lost control of what was happening and were lashing out in all directions. I don't know. But certainly, Dubai's people were extremely surprised by the attacks, though the government perhaps not so much, because if you look at what transpired, the majority of missiles seem to have been intercepted. They had a good air defense system. Now, all of this worried us. It worried us because we know people in Dubai, and it worried us because we have a historical connection with Dubai. Most people don't realize this, but till the early 1960s, the rupee was legal tender in Dubai. That's how old our connections are and how far back they go. For most Indians, Dubai is still the one city which they regard as being special, as close to home. Partly it is close to home, it's only a few hours from most Indian cities, but it's also the most Indian of foreign cities. When you get there, you can get into a taxi cab and the driver will be a Pakistani or a Nepali, and you can chat in Hindi stroke Urdu. He'll know what you're talking about. If you want to eat Indian food, it's not a problem. You don't have to go to Threzen Studio, which is the only Indian restaurant in the world with 3 Michelin stars. You can go to any kind of restaurant at any price level, and the food would be brilliant. There are also lots and lots of Indian visitors to Dubai. If you go to a big hotel like Atlantis, you'll see Indians. But there are hotels at different levels. You'll find Indians staying in more modest establishments. You'll see that flights are full of Indian holiday makers because A, Dubai is near, and B, we feel comfortable in it. You would think, therefore, that there would be a certain level of sympathy and empathy for what Dubai was going through. Well, yes, there was, but there wasn't also. What surprised me was the extent to which trolls went on attacking Dubai on special media. It almost seemed like there was a visceral hatred of Dubai and of the Indians who were suffering in Dubai. When we talk about Indians living abroad, we need to make a distinction. There are Indians who've gone to Western countries, chiefly America, who think of themselves now as American. They get American passports, and they know that even if they don't, their children will. They bring up their children in America. They don't really care that much about India, except with some kind of cultural tie, or they see Hindi movies. And a small minority go on to Twitter and they tell us how India should be run from the comfort of their home in Missouri or Mississippi or somewhere. But if you ignore this sort of view from New Jersey, Indians in America have been successful. They've done well for themselves. We wish them well. We don't really need their advice. Now, I pass no value judgments about this because most of my family, more than half, lives in America. Many of them have American passports, have done very well. Their children are fully American with only a dim knowledge of what it is to be a citizen of India or even to live in India because they're Americans. That's fine. I don't grudge them that. I envy them some of the comforts they have and I wish them success. But my family, though we are Gujaratis, don't go on Twitter and tell us how India should be run and who our leaders should be or whatever, like many other Gujaratis do. Now, that's one way of looking at Indians who live abroad. But there's a second category who we don't think about so much. Many Indians live in the Gulf, many of them in Dubai, and they go there not because they want to give their children local passports. Nobody there wants an Emirati passport. They go there for economic reasons. They go there to make a living. They maintain their contacts with India. They come back often. They think of themselves as Indians. And they will probably end up retiring or settling in India. We need them because they give us valuable foreign exchange in their remittances, and they're a good advertisement for India. They show us that Indians still can go into a country, excel, and not cease to be Indians. These are important distinctions because of some of the reactions we've seen. When the trouble started in Dubai, most of us showed some empathy, but there were a fair number of people, mostly I have to say, North Indian upper class males, who went onto social media and gloated. They said how happy they were that Dubai was being attacked and had taught the Dubai people a lesson, and that the Indians who went to Dubai were tax dodgers. They went because they didn't want to pay Indian tax. Or they said that the people who went to Dubai, now you've learnt your lesson, you should never have left India. We are much safer than you. And some inevitably went on to say, it's Modi ji that has kept us safe. What about you guys? What have you got? You've got nothing. You're suffering. Bombs are falling on you. Missiles are falling on you. This was assisted by Indian media, particularly electronic media, which did the worst kind of scaremongering stories. The palm is on fire. Burj Al Khalifa has collapsed, none of which were really true. But there was a mood not of sympathy or empathy, but a mood of jubilation in some sections. Now, I was surprised by that. Just as I can't figure out why the Iranians attacked Dubai airport, I can't figure out how Indians would react that way. Okay, maybe you don't feel sympathy for Dubai. Maybe you treat it as a faraway country. But what about your own people who are going through hell over there, who are not sure what will happen next? Shouldn't you have some empathy for them? Actually, no, there was no empathy in some quarters. Why? Could it be because most of the people who were doing the abusing were North Indians? It was South Indians who were actually well behaved and concerned. And Dubai is, as you know, the overseas capital of Kerala. So many South Indians were the ones who were really affected. Could it be that they were just gloating because they had an inferiority complex about Dubai, about people who were successful abroad and were happy to see them suffer? I hope not, but that's one explanation. And then there's the worst explanation of them all, and you see that on Twitter. Some people have come out and said this. Were they happy because this was happening to a Muslim country, and they were saying to Indians, Hindus who had gone there, you've learnt your lesson. I don't know what it was, but it was an extremely ugly sentiment. It reflected very badly on India. In which other country of the world, when your own people are under threat, when there are drones and missiles, do you sit back and gloat and say they had it coming, they deserved it? Yet, this is exactly what many Indians did. I don't know why they did it. I just wonder what we are coming to that we can't show basic empathy. And there's a second point. I think people were resentful of how well Dubai coped with these attacks. I've talked about how they were able to intercept so many of the missiles, how they had a protection system in place. But we should also talk about how well they coped with the disruptions. As you know, 10,000 people, 20,000 people, many of them Indians, were stranded in Dubai. Their flights were not taking off, the airport was under attack. At that stage, the Dubai government stepped in. People who were at the airport were fed, they were looked after, people spoke to them. If you couldn't afford a hotel room, they gave you one for free. They really took care of everyone because they believed that as the government of Dubai, it was their job. Later, the ruler of Dubai, the president, the crown prince, all did their bit to be visible. In one case, they walked through the crowded Dubai mall. They sat at a restaurant which opened out into the outside area and ate. People could see them, people took pictures, and it reassured people that things were fine. If these guys were not scared, why should we be? Was the general sentiment. Now, I want you to contrast that with what happens in India. We've seen disruptions in India during that whole Indigo crisis. We've seen people stranded at the airport. And while here people were stranded because of a hostile situation caused by a foreign country, our crisis was caused by ourselves. It was the greed of Indian Airlines that led them to this sad situation. What do you suppose happened? Nothing. The Ministry of Civil Aviation did damn all. Our people continued to be stranded. The government effectively washed its hands off. Nobody was accommodated in hotels by the government. Nobody went to the airport to reassure them, except for one or two photo ops later in the crisis. That, I think, is the difference between Dubai and India and how we handle crisis. And as for these guys, the ruler and people going to the mall, sitting, being visible, contrast that with India. If this had been India, what would have happened? Assume that one of our VVIP leaders was going to a mall. They would have closed the mall down. Anybody who was in the mall would have been thrown out. They would have closed the roads around the mall for about 3 hours. The VIP or VVIP in question would have been all alone. This is not supposition. This is exactly what happened at the Artificial Intelligence Summit. When a VVIP came, an Indian VVIP, they shut down everything. They threw out people. Even if it was an unplanned visit, security said you have to leave the building. As you know, as everybody knows, because they were concerned about VIP security and were incapable of providing it confidently, they shut down half of Delhi. Roads were blocked, nobody could get near. A metro station near the place, which should have been the most convenient option, was also shut down. Essentially, what you had was a situation where VIP worship overtook the interests of ordinary Indians. Now, we're a democracy. Our ministers are responsible to us. Dubai doesn't claim to be a democracy, it has a ruler. And yet, contrast their attitude to ordinary citizens with ours. Contrast the way they try to give confidence to their citizens with the way in which we treat our citizens. And then ask yourselves, there's something wrong here, right? We sit around and we abuse Dubai. We say, "Hey, it's not safe. They've learned their lesson." Well, actually, they've done very well in terms of crowd management, in terms of helping with inconvenience, and in terms of protecting Dubai. So, what are we so resentful of? Shouldn't we be grateful that a city where Indians feel at home, a city where Indians are welcomed, a city with which we have historic ties, should be under attack and yet care about us? I think we should. We should admire Dubai. We should admire the way in which they coped with the crisis. And we should think about ourselves and ask how we cope with every man made crisis, let alone a serious crisis. Why did people attack Dubai on social media? Why is there so much hatred? I don't know. I've given you possible explanations. But I think it's the Indian disease. When people get onto social media, they talk nonsense, they write nonsense, they have no views on what is right, what is wrong. It's just hatred that takes over. It's been a sobering experience watching all of this. It shows us in many ways that Dubai is ahead of us in terms of prosperity and other things, but perhaps it's also ahead of us in good sense.